Hello and welcome back to my channel. My name is Tony King. I'm a photographer, and in today's video we are continuing talking about my experience photographing Venice, Italy. Like I've said in another video, this is where I'm from originally, where it's my heritage, and I went on a trip there and I have a crazy amount of work that I'm mostly very happy with. And in today's video, I want to talk about taking images on the Vaporetto rides in Venice, which the Vaporetto is just a water bus. And if you go there, you're going to walk a lot, but you're also going to take these a lot. And on this trip, I felt like I took a lot of good photos on the Vaporetto. So today I want to go through 7 of those, kind of talk through them. This is an ongoing series that I'm building here. So I am gonna have videos talking about storytelling, layering, golden hour, different things of Venice. And this is not my first video that I've made on this trip. So subscribe to the channel for more images from this trip and from other places as well. Really talking about my process and different ideas behind photography and how to achieve a few different things. So let's jump into it. First image is of a Vaporetto worker tying his rope around a bollard to dock the boat. And I really like how I captured the rope in the air. It's a real nice action shot. It's almost doesn't look like there's action there because the guy's hand is just kind of out there holding the rope, but it's really sliding through his hand to get against the bollard. This is such a precise action that they do so casually. Kind of special. If you're ever there, listen to the sound of the rope tightening. It is like the most beautiful sound of all time. I really loved that sound in particular. I also like the color here. It's very warm, but you can still see a pure white, which is something that I go for when I'm looking for color tones, but it's still a very warm image. I'm shooting through 2 people that were ahead of me in line, waiting to get on. So I think that creates a nice frame for the image. You don't need to see the guy's face throwing the rope. I think what we're really focusing on and what the character is, where the motion is, the action is on the rope in this really nice twisted way, and how it's going to catch perfectly. We just know it's already going to, so we don't need to see it do it, but it's very cool to see the action of how it's going to catch perfectly against the bollard to dock the boat, which is kind of a cool shot and a cool one to start on as well, because of course, to get on, it's got a dock. A big theme that I had in a lot of these shots was waiting for the Vaporetto. A lot of the people who are waiting are locals. This was a local person as well. More often than not, I wasn't taking the very popular Vaporetto lines. I was taking kind of the small ones that go kind of the long way or to places that aren't usually super trafficked by tourists. Here I have the contrast between his silhouette, the rest of the lagoon behind him, and kind of the golden version of that, as you can see through the window of the dock where you're waiting to get on board. Maybe I wish there was slightly more detail on his face, but I don't really need it. It's kind of a somber, kind of lonely feeling image that I really like. There's some story here. There's some introspection. There's some looking out and wondering what is next, kind of who knows, what mood this guy is in. I think this gives a mood to me of like patience through a difficult moment, if that makes sense. But I really like kind of the vibe of this picture quite a bit, and how I was able to capture it. Waiting on a Vaporetto, that is also included in this idea of Vaporetto photography and public transportation photography. I mean, you could do this at a bus stop, it could be anywhere. Find the moments of like feeling. On board, we are going down the Giudecca here, kind of golden hour with the light coming through the windows. I'm shooting through, I think it was just the door that goes to the interior cabin of the Vaporetto. And there's a lot of layers in this image. So like starting from the very far back, there's a guy sitting outside on the outside portion, then coming in, we have the wall where you can see the light kind of cutting down. So you see like the sun is coming down. It's not just above, and it creates a nice like spotlight for the gentleman who's in focus in the far back, which he's pretty much isolated completely. The guy in front of him slightly covers part of his face, but he's down there. Maybe he's reading a book, just waiting patiently. Maybe he's falling asleep. You never know what he's doing. Kind of an older gentleman who's definitely got some story behind him that I was able to get in this image. Moving forward, there's different people in different levels of almost in focus to soft focus, with another person being pretty well lit at the very front of the image, but clearly out of focus. Creates all these layers, this kind of dynamicness of like sort of crowded, not super crowded here, but they can definitely be very crowded. The Vaporetto rides, and still having a personal, intimate moment, even within the crowd. He's isolated, and that's kind of what I'm going for. There's a lot of headroom to give kind of context to the location, but I really like how your eye is drawn immediately to him in this image. That's something you look for. You look for the depth, look for the things beyond what's right in front of you. Back to waiting. Here's somebody waiting to get on the Vaporetto as we're docking. So I'm aboard, and you can tell, you know, that I'm looking out at somebody waiting. There's a crowd in front of me, very dark silhouetted. I like that at the top right, you can see like the life, it's not the life jacket, it's the life ring, whatever they call those, the lifesaver, I don't know. So it kind of gives some context of this nautical vibe, and this guy, you know, waiting with his hand up. I got several images of people waiting like that, and I started to think, actually, when I'm standing up there, I do that same thing, just lean my arm up. I don't know, it's just what you do, I suppose. But I liked his beard. He made me think of Santa Claus, like, okay, it's a stereotype, but whatever. And he's just kind of patient. I think he's probably sick of a crowd, just ready to get going. He gives like an air of like, I'm used to this. He is probably, you know, seems like there's a lot of story behind him. Cool sunglasses. Again, you don't see the guy's eyes, but you can see the emotion. Shooting for depth again, I think that's something that you get when you're in a constrained space. There's pretty much always going to be something beyond what you're shooting, and probably something before it. And like, if I was just shooting this guy's back at the front, you know, you'd see that there's two people out of focus behind him, but they kind of are more interesting. So this is a very kind of somber feeling, black and white picture with the shadow all over the guy's face, although you can see his eyes and you can see the perfect, you know, shape of his face and his ear and his hair. Like you can really make him out. He's looking down in kind of this quiet personal moment, which I think is very nice. He's got a very Italian look to him that I think adds to the story here, while there's a younger guy kind of in front of him, almost pretty much blocking his whole body off, and another woman waiting in the background. And they're kind of three distinct people in three distinct moments, which just adds to the personal nature of this portrait of this gentleman here who I have in focus. I really, really like this image of this guy. Very, very emotive to me when I look at it. These, again, are things that you look for, looking through the layers, how to isolate a subject, you know, moving around so that I can get him perfectly in focus without something behind him or something distracting behind him, still kind of maintaining a bit of depth with the guy in front of him and the one behind him. Less so of layering. This is more of a framing moment with this guy kind of sitting there. You know, there's an area where you can put your suitcases that's kind of behind in some of the Vaporetto. This is one of the smaller ones, kind of the darker color ones that go towards Murano, which is where we were leaving from at this point. So he sat kind of where you put your suitcases, and there's a window before you get to the inside, and I was sitting inside at this point. He had just had to move from the other side. Maybe he's tired, he's had a long day, he's kind of sick of a crowd, he's hungry, he's sad about something, perhaps he's looking down the whole time, and he's got kind of this expression with his mouth that's almost like there's like a little bit of pain or grit to maybe his joints hurt or something. There's some sort of depth to this character, and with his hair kind of all everywhere that I got in focus, it adds a lot of texture. And so we're looking at him through this window, so you can see two layers of chairs in front of him, which I think just adds some depth into the distance and kind of the scale of this place. But he's also behind this window that we can see the entirety of, and I think it only works really because he's kind of off to the left, kind of small within this frame, so that it kind of adds an impact to this kind of somber look that he has going on. Good lighting on him, you know, light coming in from the deck above over his beard and his nose. Nice dark to camera. This is one of my favorites from the Vaporetto kind of series. But my very, very favorite one, I've shown this to some people and they just like don't get it like I do. or it doesn't speak to them in the same way as it does to me, of this pilot of the Vaporetto. I was just trying to take a picture of like kind of the sky and kind of the layer. There weren't a lot of people aboard at this point. So I was trying to get layers here, kind of the railing to go upstairs and then kind of the deck, and then going downstairs to the front seating area with the rope kind of leaning over. This is what I was looking at. And then pilot, very conveniently for me, kind of like leans against, you know, the side of the bridge, let's call it, over there, and starts looking at me like, what is this guy doing taking pictures? And it worked out perfectly. I saw it. I kind of moved slightly up to get her fully in frame, and I think the expression here is priceless. Very serious, very like no nonsense, with the sunglasses looking super cool, serious, perfect lighting on her face coming through the window. It was a very overcast day, so there's very even lighting, very nice focus. I really like this as a portrait of a Venetian woman who is a pilot on a Vaporetto. Maybe it's a redundant job, even though it's a beautiful job to go out on the water. Maybe you're sick of the crowd, or certain people are getting you irritated, or it's the start of a long day, or it's the end of a long day. There's this sort of energy here that feels very Venetian to me, very local. Overall, the architecture of the Vaporetto, it doesn't feel like we're on a tight boat. It feels like we're on a bigger platform of some kind. And that's why I really, really like this image. So I hyped up Vaporetto images a lot, maybe at the start and in other videos. So let me know how it's coming across to you. The Vaporetto images, there are going to be some more in other videos where I'm talking about maybe some more specific ideas of photography, whereas this is very specific to a location or type of location, public transport. Hopefully I talked a little bit about how to find images through layers and depth, and yeah, in general, finding these images and how to frame them. I think sometimes when you're taking images in public, for me, it's definitely like a little nervousing, but in Venice, it worked out because like everybody had cameras. So it wasn't like, oh, like, whoa, this guy's taking pictures. It was a lot less of that, whereas like maybe I feel that more in other places that I've gone to try and take photos. But you know, you try not to be intrusive. I don't feel like any of these pictures are like stealing too much from the person that I took a photo of. I'm really happy with a lot of this work. So I hope you enjoy them as well. Let me know what you think. Hopefully you take something positive from it for your own work as a photographer or as an artist in general. Stay tuned for some more types of photography from Venice, different locations, different ideas, cinematic, golden hour, all these sorts of things that I'm planning to make videos on. Hopefully you subscribe for more stuff. I've been Tony King. I'll see you there.